everyone for coming today, and I brought a laptop. I don't usually give talks with a laptop. I usually give talks on nice paper, but people thought I was back in the Stone Age, and I think I should modernize how I give talks. So I bought a laptop, and now I'm going to have to squint as I read from this very small screen. So please forgive me if I make funny eye movements while I'm looking at my monitor. I'd like to thank first the Southampton Islamic Society and the Atheist Society for hosting this interesting debate. I'd also like to thank Dr. Robert Stovall for attending and giving us what was no doubt a good enunciation for the case for morality without God. Now, I'd like to begin with asking a question, can atheists be moral? If anyone came in today thinking I would be claiming that atheists, especially Western atheists, are immoral or self-centered, egotistical and self-interested, then I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. I'm not here today to demonstrate that atheists can't be moral. I'm here to demonstrate that they have no intellectual foundation to be. Or at the very least, they don't have an acceptable or consistent set of morals. And I'll explain why near the end of my presentation, the very reason why atheists with morals do exist. First, let's discuss what morals are. Morals do not relate to actions. Morals relate to the value behind an action or an intention. So doing an action, for example, giving money to the poor, is not moral. It's a moral action. It's an action that has value. Let's take another example, and obviously I'd say that all values are determined based on a set of criteria. So for example, if you view giving money to the poor as something which is valuable, then it becomes your moral. That's the moral that you hold. And it's very much like a central bank of a country. In a central bank of a country, they print out paper money. The paper money has no intrinsic value except just a kind of rectangle piece of paper with some printing on it. It has no intrinsic value to it. What gives it the value is that the bank is willing to transfer anyone that comes to it and pay the bearer the sum of £5 or £10, whatever that means in today's fiat system. But certainly back in the old days, it used to mean it would give you gold. And so people used to take money as having some value. You go to the shops, you have confidence that the shopkeeper also values that money as you value that money. And so it gains currency, and that's why we call it currency. Now, continuing into the economic example, what do you think has really intrinsic value? Paper money or gold coins? Obviously, it would be the gold coins. Gold coins have an intrinsic value, and paper money is just based on confidence. It's actually one of the biggest confidence scams ever in every country, where they print out paper money and we all have confidence in this paper money until, of course, you have rapid inflation, which obviously is destroying Zimbabwe. It destroyed the economy for a while of Argentina and many countries which collapsed due to high inflation because paper money has no intrinsic value. It's up to you to believe in that value. In a way, it's like a noble lie. You have to believe this lie for it to have value. And this is very interesting, because I'm going to now relate this to the issue of morals. You see, if you don't believe in anything of any moral that has intrinsic value, a demonstrable intrinsic value, then essentially when you're taking something to be moral, you're taking it based on trust, on confidence. You're confident that what your parents told you is moral, and you will blindly follow this moral. And it's the same thing for money. And you'll be surprised how many societies have based their economies on such typical confidence scams. And well, I would argue that secular morality is also a confidence scam, but I'll go into why. So what is the possible basis for morals? How do we base our morals? What is a good way of basing morals? Well, let's discuss the different bases there are. Let's discuss, let's say, an evolutionary or genetic basis. Michael Ruse, a philosopher of science from the University of Guelph in Canada, writes, the position of modern evolutionists is that humans have an awareness of morality because such an awareness is of biological worth. Morality is a biological adaptation no less than your hands, your feet, your teeth. And he continues, I appreciate it that when someone says, love thy neighbor as thyself, they think they are referring above and beyond themselves. Nevertheless, such reference is truly without foundation. Morality is just an aid to survival and reproduction. Any deeper meaning is illusory. But now let's say, okay, for example, let's use evolution now as the basis for our morality. Fine, cooperating, being a team player is helpful. But what if you are a very strong team player? What if you can dominate others? What if you can get loads of mates for yourself, assuming you're the alpha male of a pack of human beings? Shouldn't your genetic genes have more right to be reproduced with as many females as possible, and the weaker males don't have this right because you are stronger, you're more intelligent, you're what have you, you have more resources, whatever the case might be. The strong deserve to survive and the weak deserve to die off or not reproduce. Nietzsche, the philosopher Nietzsche despised religion, and he's a very famous atheist philosopher. Everyone knows Nietzsche. He despised religion because he said it makes us help the weak and it restricts the strong. He condemned Christianity as a slave morality. You see, why should we help the weak? And why should the strong have to restrict themselves and limit themselves to pull the dead weight? This is what Nietzsche said, and he came out this very open, because this is the reality of when you reject God, when you reject these religions, which make you care for the weak. It's counter-evolutionary. People might say, maybe my emotions are the result of my genes. Me wanting to help someone and be altruistic, my genes made me do that. Oh, and that's totally fine, that's really great. But what if you are a mass murdering psychopath? You could argue, my genes made me do so as well. And because genes determine morality, it's just as good as a person who helps other people. Maybe the mass murdering psychopath gets to eliminate all his competing male rivals and gets to mate with as many women as possible because he is the strongest guy. In genetically speaking, what he's doing is moral according to that basis. So remember, humans have a good side, we've also got a bad side. And if you're saying that whatever comes from a human being is intrinsically moral, then both sides are intrinsically moral too. Funnily enough, this would cause what I call the determinist negation of moral agency. Bit of a long double-barrel sentence. Basically, if there's no soul, there's no free will. What made you do something is a combination of your genes and the situation, the context you're in, including what you're taught and the environment you're in. In that situation, you are not morally culpable for anything you do because it wasn't you. There is no intrinsic you. It's just the result of your ancestors' genes making you do it and the context